maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so today I'm here to do a book review of The Fires of Heaven, which is book number 5 in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. I wanted to pick this up for ages and I just hadn't had a good enough reason because it's so long and I couldn't dedicate the time to it that it deserved. Because I knew that if I read it whilst I was at uni, then I would get distracted, I wouldn't be immersed in the story. So when the booktubeathon came along, I was like, this is the perfect time to pick up this book and try and get all the way through it. And that is exactly what happened. So I hadn't actually read the 4th book at all recently. I think I read it maybe a year and a half ago, so quite a long gap between the 4th book and the 5th book. But I found that I immediately jumped back into this world. I immediately remembered a lot about who everyone was, despite the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of characters throughout Wheel of Time. And I just really enjoyed having this world back and open again, because there are so many wonderful things that Jordan introduces into the fantasy genre that you just can't get anywhere else, and I just really enjoy his writing, even though he is a little bit long-winded in places and he can kind of go on a little bit about things that you don't think are too necessary. However, a lot of the time they do kind of loop back around, and these things that you didn't think were all that important do actually become important later on, so it's quite a fun story to read, and I do enjoy kind of finding all these little clues about what might happen next. So I ended up giving this book a 4.5 star rating, which is almost 5 stars. So I actually really enjoyed this story, and I thought it was definitely one of the better ones in the series so far. I think there was a lot of stuff that was build up at the beginning, which was quite slow paced, which is fairly standard of Robert Jordan's style. He's quite slow-paced in building up all of these things that could happen. He tells the story from a multitude of different angles and people and their perspectives. So, of course, it takes a while for any one storyline to get to its climax. So that was why there was a slow beginning to this, and there was definitely a lot of building up to something much bigger going to happen. I don't really mind a slow beginning as long as I can know that there is going to be something coming, and I definitely got that feeling straight away from this book that there was something building up. And a lot of people had recommended this book out of the series to me, saying that it was their favourite and saying that it was a really good one, so that was really exciting for me, and I definitely felt like I was excited going into this. And I think with a book this size and the type that is absolutely tiny, you need to be excited to read it because, yeah, it's a giant, this book. Once again in this story we have Rand al'Thor as the main character. He is quite a pivotal character, as you will know if you have already read the first few books. He is very much the lead of the story. He is the chosen one, he is the one who's special, he's the one who's going to save the world. He is a key player, and I really enjoyed seeing from his point of view about how he kind of had to balance sanity and insanity and whether he was going mad or not, because I felt like that was a really interesting sort of dialogue that he kept having with himself. I like the internal dialogue. I like the fact that he kind of criticises himself and talks to himself and says weird things to himself about what's going on, and I thought that that was a really interesting point of view to get to see. I also felt like there were a couple of other major players in this book. Nynaeve and Egwene and Elaine, they all kind of came into their own a lot more in the story. They all kind of developed a much more personality, and we really get to see their storylines and how they all overlap and the way that they all start working together, which was a really cool thing. Also, all of them sort of start to become more defined in their own character roles within this book. They all have a more established position within the workings of the Wheel of Time, and they all kind of know their purpose and they know what they're trying to do, even though they don't really know how they're going to get there and what they're going to do to ensure that the end they want is the outcome that happens. Nynaeve and Elaine face an awful lot of struggles as they try and escape from anything and everything. They have to get away from people who are chasing them. They have to live in some terrible conditions and some very strange conditions, and they are basically on the run for the majority of this book, which was really interesting to see because they have to hide in all sorts of strange and weird and wacky places. Egwene, on the other hand, she is actually not with her friends. She is in the Ale Waste with Rand and his party, and she gives us quite an interesting perspective because she supports Rand. She is obviously Rand's friend, but she can see from the outside what's happening to him, and she can see the changes that are overtaking him. And it's a really interesting way of showing what's going on with him, because we see his internal dialogue about what he thinks is happening, and then we also see her saying what she sees and what she believes is happening. And it's quite interesting to see where those two cross over and how their opinions are differing but still kind of the same ending. She's also training with the Wise Ones, who are basically like magical people. They are very similar to the Aes Sedai, and I really enjoyed seeing the Wise Ones and their training of Egwene because it was so interesting to see the different culture, and you know that I love different cultures, so seeing that culture was really interesting to me, and I just felt like I really enjoyed their perspective on things. They have quite a wise perspective on everything, and it's very interesting. It's very funny to see their sayings and the things that they consider normal and how that fits in with the society that we're more accustomed to. One element that I was a little bit sad that wasn't really included in this book was Perrin, because Perrin is actually one of my favourite characters, and his storyline was going somewhere that I was really enjoying in the last few books. So it was a bit of a shame that he wasn't included in this. He was barely even mentioned, let alone included as a perspective character. But I hope that he will come into the story again soon, and hopefully in the next book he will feature more heavily. You guys can let me know if that happens or not, because I would love to know. But yeah, I was a little bit sad that he wasn't included. However, instead of him we saw a little bit more of the Black Ajah and the Forsaken, and more of the evil characters. So I felt like that was a good thing, and I definitely enjoyed seeing what they got up to and the plots that they were forming. I also really liked seeing the discoveries of dark friends and things like that. All of these people who had kind of slotted themselves into the society and tried to hide away their true intentions when actually they're evil and they're dark and nasty people, and I liked seeing the way that they were discovered and found out. I would certainly say that this series is worth reading, and this book in particular is a good one out of the series. There are definitely some books in the series that I don't consider as good, and this one was definitely up there with the better ones for sure, and I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend this series if you are prepared to sit through a very long slog of reading, because it's a huge series. The world is ginormous. The host of characters is unbelievable. The depth of the world and the depth of the description and everything that Jordan goes into is unbelievable, unparalleled. I really enjoyed it. I think you can truly become so immersed in this. I also actually have the audiobook of this, and I was listening to the audiobook a lot too, which I really enjoyed because I felt like that gave me a lot more immersion as well, but it was also a lot slower than me reading it, so I dipped in and out of both of them. But yeah, I would highly recommend this. I would love to know what you guys think of it, whether you have read the series and whether you're thinking of picking up the series. Please do let me know in the comment section, and I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.